why would he want me to come and talk about something that people already know something about? So it really got me thinking as to what should I tell people in addition to what they already know, right? Because if I tell you something that you already know, what my speech is redundant, right? So therefore, I first want to start, then actually what I spoke was something, but before I start talking about what does simplicity mean, according to the vision of Bhagavad Gita, I want you to think a little bit about what does simplicity mean to you. What do you mean? It's an easy word, right? Dictionary meaning is very easy, and you must have thought about, simplifying your life in some way earlier. So what does it convey to you? Then we can go ahead and you can see what additional meaning we derive from it. Otherwise, I don't want to waste your very precious time giving you passion on something that you want to know. Right? So therefore, let's start exploring together, because the topic is self-exploration. Exploration doesn't happen with monopoly. It's not like I talk and you listen and that's exploration. Exploration always happens as a participatory process. Right? So now, let's all of you, some of you, can you tell me first of all what the word simplicity means, and when it applies to your life, what does it convey to you? Please.
Basically, create actions which would bring you peace and
Actions which would bring what peace and harmony is.
Be what you are. If something that is simple for me might be complicated for somebody else. Be what you are.
Wow. Okay.
being happy with the finer and the better things in life.
Finer and better. That's a very interesting combination. So what do you mean by finer and what do you mean by little?
Contentment.
Sorry?
Contentment.
Yeah, lovely. No, but I think I love the words that you used. So can you kind of little bit make that concrete and explain what do you mean by finer and what do you mean by simple? Because these are nice words to use.
Yeah, most of the time we go out, we get lost in all our desires and everything that comes to us basically, and we forget about our roots. We forget about the little things that make us happy. So these are things that we need to ponder about more, and that contentment is the name of the game here.
Anybody else who has any other idea about what simplicity will be?
People could be minimalist, doing what is absolutely essential.
Okay. Now, actually I want to start with what you said is the meaning of simplicity. Generally, when people, especially if there is somebody who's coming to talk on Bhagavad Gita, they would emphasize something like, being minimalist. Minimalist means what? We generally divide, unfortunately, the world in two separate divisions. The first division we make is what we call materialist, and the second is what we call spiritual. Right? This is unfortunate division because exactly as he says, then what does it mean? Simplifying means becoming more spiritual, and as you become more spiritual, what do? You as though reduce your material demands. And what does material mean? Material means what? Your job, right? Your salary, your family. So everything you have to minimize, right? And that is something, that's why nobody who's young and dynamic like you wants to listen to Gita. Why? Because this vision of life of giving up everything and then, in some kind of an unknown spiritual path seems totally impractical. Because you do have ambitions. You do have, desire to have good relations. You do want to raise a family and you want your kids to be successful. How can you just give it all up for some spiritual goal which you don't even know what that spiritual goal is all about? Right? So that's why he was asking me when, he says, oh my God, after listening to your talk, will people not think that what they are doing is all mundane and then they want to go on some kind of a spiritual path? So I said, don't worry. I will not give this kind of an advice. I'm not here to give an advice of how you should live your life, what you should do, what you should think. I'm here to talk about some realities that Bhagavad Gita points out. And if you can incorporate those realities in your life, you can do everything in this life, including all these other things, material things, very well. So you have to make your life as undivided whole, a holistic life, which includes everything. And this is what the prayer is all about, right? Money will flow. We are not saying money is material, right? You are saying knowledge will flow. We are not calling knowledge of stock market material. Please understand, everything has to flow in your life. Beautifully, your relationships have to flow. Everything has to flow properly in order for your life to be complete. With this division that you make, it's a fatal, because then you're always shunning one thing and going for the other thing. There is no holistic vision of life. Okay? So simplicity according to Bhagavad Gita certainly does not mean being limitless, right? But to celebrate life and to have proper attitudes and proper values with which you can make every moment. Right? So now, the meaning of simplicity in Bhagavad Gita is not an advice of be simple. Okay? There are certain attitudes that are being talked about in the 13th chapter of Gita. There are 20 values given, and I have 1 hour, so I'm not going to try to rush through all the 20 values and how one needs to finish myself, but I'm going to take 3 values, the first 3 values, and we'll explore. Right? It's an exploration. So the first value that Bhagavad Gita talks about is amanitvam. Amanitvam is mani. Do you know what the word mani means?
No.
Excellent. So the word man, right, means in any Indian colloquial language it means proud, right? A is a prefix. So what does it mean? Not having it. Exactly. Right? So amanitvam. Tvam is a suffix and it shows an abstract noun. Okay? So that means the status of being not proud. Right? Now, what's wrong in being proud? Tell me, what's wrong with being proud? Excellent. That is really the key. It affects how you deal with others. That's a key. What about you?
Stops listening to others.
Stops listening to others. Right? So how it relates to others and how it makes you feel as though you are very self-sufficient, you are cool, and you stop listening to others. Right? So now, for a moment, let's get into mind of a proud person. There are 4 areas that Bhavan was talking about. What are the 4 areas? How do you conduct yourself, right? With your friends, at work, with your family, and in the society. Now, let's get into this proud person and see how that proud person would behave at work.
And you feel that he is right in each and everything.
Excellent. So this proud person feels that he or she, let's add he or she, right? So will what is good at everything, right? So he knows everything, he or she, right? Then what else? How would that person behave at work? So that means now if you feel that's exactly coming to your point. In fact, I'm sorry I don't know your names because I really like to address people and not audience.
So whenever we are speaking, we just say.
So just say who you are so that I can repeat your name. I'm trying to remember now. There are too many. But it would be lovely to actually for me to get to know you a little bit better because I always start my seminars knowing people that I'm talking to. But if I do that, then hardly be any time for my talk. So I'm not doing it this time. But as you speak, I think it's a good idea. David? Okay, David. Okay. So now David is saying that, so if you think that you know everything, you'll stop listening to people. Now, if you stop listening to people and imagine somebody comes to you and starts talking and you stop listening, how would that person feel talking to you?
Rejected.
Unimportant.
He might not be coming back to you again because of the disinterest that you're showing to him when he's talking.
Excellent. So the person feels unimportant. So that's why he's saying that it affects your relationship of how you deal with others, right? It's not like, okay, don't be proud. It's not. If I give you, no matter how much advice I give you, unless you see what all is at stake, you will continue to be who you are, right? So that now the people feel unimportant. They will hesitate to go and see that person. So that means, let's say if that person you can't really avoid, if that person is your boss and is not listening, you can't totally avoid going and seeing him. What would you do?
You don't have any other.
You'll actually not go to that person and present all the problems. You'll try to speak to your colleagues and try to somehow sort it out. What has happened? The person who knows it all, his input is totally missed. Because nobody wants to go and speak to that all-knowing person because they feel unimportant. Often that person is real person is not available, is not speaking to you. And is just trying to tell you everything and looks down upon you. And you feel unheard, you feel unimportant, you feel like you are less, and everybody wants to avoid interacting with this person. So more and more, by your pride, you isolate yourself from others. The more the irony is, you feel you know it all, and people want to come less and less to you for solutions.
Probably you end up with just main crisis because what happens is that
Exactly.
one kind of blows it will come to it.
You end up in a crisis situation. Why do you end up in a crisis situation? Because people will then try to solve within themselves. It won't even come to your notice until the thing really flares up and then it becomes a crisis. Right? So now you can see this pride that you have, where this all-knowing, what is it creating at workplace?
Chaos.
Chaos. Absolute chaos and total inefficiency. From the standpoint of the organization, is it a gain or a loss? Huge loss. It's a huge loss because what the people whose talents, the people who have talents who are young, they are not utilized sufficiently because you know it all. Right? There was a very nice quote from Steve Jobs. Very interesting. He was a smart person. So he says, I'm paying a lot to people to come and work for my company. Which is Apple. Okay? Now, why would I pay them a lot of money to tell them what to do? I want to pay them a lot of money to know from them what I should do. Because if they have skills, then I need to draw. I can't be knowing everything. I need to draw from their skills rather than making them as just people who would follow. Right? So this pride at workplace leads to not only your relations with your colleagues souring, but for a company, it's a loss. Because you are not utilizing the talents and knowledge base of people sufficiently. And that shows up as what? The final numbers in your profit. So therefore, pride doesn't pay. Why does it seem to us like it pays? Excellent. Right? Why, if people, in fact, people are quite pretty smart. Right?
Self-obsessed.
Self-obsessed. What happens is that as you go up in the rank, right? So therefore, there is some kind of a system that exists in our whole work environment, in our society, where people begin to look up to you as you go up in the ladder. And when people begin to look up to you, there is this whole sense of, I'm somebody important. And with that self-importance comes a little bit of self-absorption and obsession. Now, before, what I said did not really matter, but as I go up in the ladder, people have to, my subordinates, whether they like it or not, they have to listen to me. That gives it feeds this self-absorption attitude. And that whole thing of people begin to love that control that they feel towards others. So that's why as you go up and up and up, what happens? Your pride begins to increase. Because the system provides that kind of, the whole system works in that way that the higher person is to be respected. The higher person, and nobody wants to speak against that person. So it continues to feed your pride. And that very pride leads to what? Fall. Absolutely. You need to understand. Because if you don't understand that, you will be very self-obsessed with your pride. So that means if you move up and if you don't bring other people up along with you, ultimately that fall is something which is what you are instigating. Don't think that, then you feel that, that person is not working well and that person is not doing their job well. So you put more pressure using your position. And you are actually increasing you're making it quicker. The fall becomes quicker. So therefore, pride doesn't pay. Okay? Now, the second thing, let's look at a proud person at home, because we are all individuals. We don't have only one role, which is what at workplace. When we go out there, we spend time with our families, we spend time with our friends. How would a pride person, a person who's proud, behave in family or with friends? Dominating. Absolutely. So this dominating means whatever I say has to happen. Okay. Now, imagine how would be your relationship at home when one person constantly wants to dominate over the others?
Regular fights.
Regular fights. Actually, I'll tell you a story. And this is a real life story, right? So, I was, I'm going to use me, what's her name? Cheryl. Cheryl. Okay. So Cheryl, as she was saying, I was working with the UN for a number of years, and one of my friends, she told me her brother recently got divorced. So I said, oh, so what happened? So she said that he was a captain in a ship. So when they would go sailing, he is the captain. everybody has to follow exactly as he says, which is required for his role because they are all out in the sea and one person does have to take charge and has to tell everyone what to do. But he says the problem is when he came home, he carried forward that role of a captain, right? And constantly telling everyone else what to do. What happened? Fight. Exactly, as I said, fight. Nobody wants to, because he's playing a different role here. Please understand. He has a role to play in his workplace, which is a different role, which may require him to be a leader and make decisions which are critical for what? That particular context. But when you carry forward that whole thing in your home and begin to dominate, it can lead to fights. And fights and dissatisfaction, and that will lead to disaster. So pride doesn't pay at workplace. Pride doesn't pay at what? At home. What about friends?
You won't be invited.
You won't be invited. So it's like you won't be invited because you are showing off, right? So sometimes you're right. As young kids, we used to all go out and there was one person who was acting cool. Everybody was listening to him, but once that person left, becomes a laughing stock. People would laugh at him. Right? It's like, yeah, look at this, what is his whole attitude and what is his air, So actually, people may listen to you, but outside, when you're not there, you become an artist. Because people are actually quite smart. Just show off and all doesn't really work. Right? So whether it is explicit or implicit, actually it doesn't. A genuine, simple, this is where we say a genuine, simple individual carries a weight. Carries a weight which is way beyond what? Something that position gives you, sense of domination gives you, sense of showing off gives you. That simplicity is something which is beautiful and very powerful. I was thinking about, there was one image which came to my mind, and that is of what was his dressing? Very simple. Dhoti. Okay. What was his appearance? What was he actually showing? Was he showing off anything? But when he walked in to the round table in the UK, what happened? He shook people. What? Where did that strength come from? Where did that strength come from?
From the support he had of the other people whom he spoke up for.
From the support that he had from others, but why do you think people supported him? The support that he got from others was not important. The kind of sacrifices that people underwent to what? Get the freedom. This was not extraordinary. Staying in jail, right? Getting beaten up. I mean, that is not extraordinary. It's not a small thing. Why he was able to move the people to that extent that the way he came across as somebody who was simple. Simple doesn't mean simpleton. It meant that he was a genuine human being, an authentic human being. He walked his talk. He believed. He first said what you want others to be the change that you want to see in others. So that means any change starts with yourself. So that means it's very easy for us all to about, oh, the government should change, and India should change, and the community should change, and the police should change, and then the world politics has to change, and constantly we have demands on others, right? But how much do we really pay attention to ourselves? Very little. And this is why our ideas remain ideas. They don't become what? Actions which actually can move others and bring about change in others. Right? So therefore, the more you give up pride, false pride, okay, the more you become an authentic person, the more you become a simple person, then what? You will gain the strength which is unmatched by anything else, right? Which gives you a feeling, a temporary feeling of power or well-being. A temporary feeling of power or well-being is dangerous because it leads to your downfall. So this is why what Vedanta talks about is we are living in a world, right? Amanitvam, how do you give up this manitvam? By understanding all that I have said. The second thing that Vedanta or Bhagavad Gita points out is something which is good. They talk about what we call a yajna. Yajna is what? Yajna, we all live in this amazing country with this amazing spiritual heritage. And we don't quite know what a simple thing called yajna means. Does anybody have an idea as to what yajna means?
Devoting yourself for a cause.
That's a good explanation. But actually, literal meaning of this yajna is, sorry? No. Yajna means there is a Vedic fire ritual. That means yajna, right? There is a fire ritual. Do you know that? In that fire, you offer things. This is called yajna. What is the idea behind that yajna? You know? What? Burn the evil. Oh wow. Okay.
Basically give up stuff.
Give up stuff?
When you usually do a yajna, you offer water or something like that as an offering.
Okay, great. Now, what's your name?
Varun.
Varun. Varun is saying it's an offering, which is a correct meaning. It's an offering. It's an offering to whom? Excellent. So-called gods, right? Who are these gods? Why are you offering to them? Huh? To seek their blessings. Actually, the whole thing is showing gratitude. Because everything that you do, every accomplishment that you have had in your life, right? How many people and forces have contributed to that? Start counting. All your education, the job that you do. How many people have contributed to you being who you are? Give me few names, few entities. Your parents, your teachers, your friends, huh? Siblings, colleagues, children, huh? Society, wives, wonderful spouses. Very good. I'm so happy to say that, right? Because this will your relationship. Number one, wife. Yeah. Okay. So that means, now imagine, this is a fact. It's not positive thinking, it's not some kind of a up in the air, some ideas. This is reality of life. There are numerous people who have contributed to you being who you are. when you become who you are, there is less and less recognition of their role, and there is more and more what? Your inflated sense of self. So that means you move away from reality. The reality is they have all contributed, and what is the mental model that you have created? I am the great. I know it all. I am the one, So that means now, how much is the truth in this whole thing? There is very little truth. So yajna is a ritual where every day you remind yourself actively about what the roles that different entities in your life they play for your well-being. And you show gratitude to them. Right? So imagine, but not the Vedic yajna is something which is even more subtle. In addition to all these people that you talked about, it also talks about, imagine without the rain, you will have no water to drink. So where all these accomplishments will come unless you have water to drink? The sun sitting so far away has its own contribution, right? Imagine that you can't even imagine life without the presence of that sun. Air. This external air becomes what? Prana. Prana means what? Life, right? Every minute you try to close your nose and not breathe for 5 minutes. So that means what? You have come in the universe where all these things are limited, within which all the other people contribute. So you don't only show gratitude to people, you show gratitude to what? Exactly, all these forces. Varuna. Varuna is? Vayu. Air. Aditya. Sun. Every day you remind yourself. Every day you remind yourself that the universe is at work all the time to make it possible to accomplish anything that you want to do. What would be your mindset when you go to work and when you are dealing with your kids and when you are dealing with your spouse and with your nation? What would be the attitude? What would be the attitude? Tell me. Gratefulness, gratitude. Gratitude is not something which comes from because I'm telling you or because Gita is telling you. It is seeing the realities and aligning your existence with realities. It's not just some advice. When I connect you as a Gita teacher, if I connect you to the realities, and if you assimilate those realities, I don't need to keep on coming and telling you what you should do and what you should do. You do it automatically. And when you begin to do it automatically, your life will transform. Because it will change the way you interact when you are at work. Because that reality of you are living in what, according to the Veda, in addition to yajna, there is a talk on Indra's net. So we live in an interconnected world. You and me coming together today, how many causes have to work in order for it to happen? First, I have to meet God. And me meeting itself is what? 1 year ago, I didn't even know he existed and he didn't know I existed. How many forces came together to make that meeting happen. And after having exposed to whatever I was teaching, the thought emerged that I have to expose my employees to this talk. How many different causes? Then I had to come and see Pallavi, and they grilled me, an interview, what will you bring to our organization? They were interviewed. So that is what. And I passed the interview. So that's why I'm here. Right? So therefore, all these things have to happen. My point is for you to listen to me today. Causes within causes, within causes, within causes. Who controls all these causes? Does any human being control all these causes? No. There is this intelligence which puts the whole universe together. And that intelligence manifests in form of all these different forces. And puts it all together. So if I find myself in this arrangement, which is already given to me, what is my duty? What is my duty? To first recognize that there is an arrangement. The minute I recognize, I will what? Give up my pride. Because I'll be in awe of this whole big arrangement, which is not what? The sun I have not put in its place, the water I have not created, the air I have not done. Within that, all these human beings exist. I have not created any one of them. They all support me in one way or the other for me to be who I am. If I really begin to see my life like that, what is going to be my attitude? Not in addition, not only gratitude, but one more thing. What is the gratitude, respect, and what else?
Humility.
Humility, correct. But what else?
You start to appreciate everything around you.
You start to appreciate everything around you. But in addition to that, there is one more thing which makes us very proactive. To say that not only now I have received so much in my life, now I have to what? Give. Because the world is arranged in a way, no matter how much you give, you will always take more than what you give. You will always take a lot more than what you give. Because all this, you can't compensate. Can you compensate the nature for everything that it has given you? No. But if you find yourself in this arrangement, and if you are oblivious to its contribution to you, and if you keep on thinking about how can I grab more, how can I take more, how can I, manipulate the world according to my needs, where will it end? Everybody who's part of the system only wants to grab and doesn't want to give anything back. What will you do to this intrasnet net of interconnection?
Disturb the cycle.
Excellent. You will disturb the cycle. But if you contribute, if you recognize that I have these skills, I have this set of power, I have this set of knowledge, right? And I am part of this whole system, and I'm not only the recipient, I'm also what? The actor, participant. Then I will give to the best of my ability. Give my knowledge, give my skills, give my love, give my care, everything. That is a huge shift. when I begin to have gratitude for things that I'm given, and I'm proactive about giving what I can to the best of my ability, where is the place for this sense, the false sense of pride? What will happen? What will happen with this false sense of pride, which is my bubble that I have created? It will vanish automatically. Nobody has to come and stand here and give you a talk, oh, don't be proud, oh, don't be like this. It will automatically disappear in light of what you understand. It's not an advice from a teacher, it's not an advice from Gita. Gita makes you see certain realities. If you begin to be in touch with those realities, your life will change. It cannot but change. Okay? So that is the meaning of Amani. Now, your job. You have to explain to me in one or two sentences what you understood by this Amani. And then I will move on to the next one. What is Amani? What did you understand? I spoke about for about how long? How long did you speak? Huh? Half an hour? Oh my God, I have only 1 hour. So next half an hour. So you have to tell me what you understood by the value of Amani.
To be egoless.
Yeah, but what does this so-called egoless, what does it mean? Can you iterate a little bit more to understanding rather than just one word?
To get rid of your pride.
Yeah, to get rid of your pride by seeing what?
By interacting well with others.
Can you speak a little
Yeah,
louder?
my throat is a little out of order, but by interacting well with others,
Yes.
by getting rid of your the sense of self-obsession and trying to make things work rather than creating barriers and chaos, and also to shed your all the sorts of things that clog your mind, and that would help go a long way in making it happen.
Wonderful. Does anybody else want to add anything to what I'm saying?
Nobody, when you see a success,
Ah,
try to see what was around you for the success. A lot of people say when God see I was a person who did everything and it's been misinterpreted. God wants to say that He's around you, what He done for you. It is not. Second thing, when you talk about ego and pride, pride is like a man with a small water who doesn't want to let his soil go. How much he grows up, he doesn't want to be there.
so now let's move to. So if I were to say that pride is a bubble which gives you what? Some sense of kick in the short run, but in the long run, it is what? Not helping you. It is not helping you because it affects how you perform at work, how you are with your friends, how you are with your family, right? So it affects your existence because you are doing these functions.
I think there's two reasons. Success first is your individual success.
Excellent.
Your individual success, but do not extend it.
Excellent. Now, here is something which is an extremely important point. It's a very, I'm so glad you bring it and you brought it out, because generally absence of pride is seen as, that you constantly put yourself down. Oh, nahi, maine to kuch nahi kiya, mera kuch nahi hai. It's not that. To have a good self-esteem and to have self-respect is something which is extremely critical to living a healthy life. Right? Now, if you keep on putting yourself down in the name of being humble, right? So therefore, that is unhealthy. I'll give you a small example because it is interesting. I learned my Vedanta from a teacher. My teacher's name was Swami Dayananda Saraswati. And he was already a very well-known scholar of Vedanta. And I was a young girl when I was in the US. I went to meet him. And as this young person who thought that, oh, I'll be independent thinker and I don't take anybody's, teaching as a reality. So I went to him with lots and lots of questions. So I always, every time I went to him, I had all these questions, because I wanted to figure out. And after he answered those questions, he was not threatened by the questions. That itself was a big thing. So he was not acting as some big guru and saying, who are you and who are you to ask him those questions. So he was really very interested in engaging with me and answering my questions. But after that, once he told me, oh, you're really a smart girl. And I said, no, Swamiji, I'm not a smart girl. He said, why are you denying it? Say yes, but understand that smartness for which how many people are responsible? Men. So therefore, you begin to be a person who respects oneself, has a good self-esteem, but doesn't become proud. That's a very important, because it's a thin line between, right, having a self-respect and becoming proud. So you have to have a good self-esteem. You have to have self-respect. But it cannot cross the line. And what helps you not cross the line is what? Your understanding that how many people have contributed to my being in the world. Then you give them their due, and at the same time you respect yourself. Okay? Wow. I get this check of saying that there is no time limit. So, okay. Now, so I can engage with you without that thing that you cannot have half an hour. So let's move on to the next one. The next value is a dambha. Dambha. What is dambha? No clue. Dambha. So I'm amazed that none of you speak any Indian languages. Is it a common word in?
So continue 100 languages.
Yes. Yes. But
And unfortunate part is that after 10th standard nobody likes any language.
yeah, it's really one thing which is so striking. Just a by the way point, right? Just a very small point. This is not point. I do class for kids, and those kids are like between 8 and 12 years old. And I asked them. So I said, what language should they speak in France? They all speak French. In Germany, German. In Japan, Japanese. In Korea, Korean. In Thailand, Thai. And I said, what language shall we speak in India? Then they said, all said English. And then they said, so I said, yeah. So there is one thing which is a fact, which is English. But if somebody speaks the regional language, what do we think? That person is not true. So there is one thing which is a fact, but it gets loaded with what? Our own language. There is a huge attitude. The attitude is what? The person who speaks that regional language feels inferior. Because we all make that person feel what? Less. There is no other country where people speaking their own language feel less.
illusory arrogance.
Illusory arrogance, right? So therefore, there is one thing which is a fact, the other thing is an attitude, and Indians have a huge sense of what, lack of ownership for all the riches that they have. Yes, I was.
90% when they think
They think in mother tongue.
they are not.
Yes, nobody thinks exactly. But in India, probably we do think, because I mean, they all think in regional language, their own regional language. Then how come, if that is the case, why don't you know the meaning of the word Dhamma? Because that's a very common word.
That's the typical classroom syndrome that you can go wrong. That is the biggest problem in the, and being a LLB from work, lot of garbage, and I was on the teacher, so it was
So that's right. Yeah. So that means that the people are now being free to express rather than they don't know the meaning of Dhamma. Okay? So now, if nobody wants to tell me the meaning of Dhamma, then I'm going to do it. Right? So what is the meaning of Dhamma? Pretense. Sorry? Pretense? Do you understand pretense? Yes. Okay. Now, you have to do one job and you have to tell me how is pride different from pretense?
What is meaning of the action?
No. That's correct. Did you understand what she said? No. Get up and tell everyone, because what you are saying is right. Please tell it, explain to her.
Pretense is not being yourself, and
Right.
and pride is inflated sense of self.
Do you see the distinction? Pride is something for what you have achieved. Pretense is what? Acting as though you have achieved something which you have not even achieved. So that means there is one more degree of distortion. Pride is for something that you have and you feel that you are great. Pretense is something that is called something that you don't have, you show people that you have. Now, do you want to take a break? No?
We just letting everyone enjoy the digital and distribute the tea for everyone.
Okay. Okay. So therefore, now let's look at why do we need to pretend? Why do you need to pretend what you are not? And we all, to a certain extent, we all do it. Don't think that this is all just some other people who are, we all do it. Right? For approval. Excellent. To feel important. Show off to others. Right? So that means that why do we need to feel important and show off to others and get their respect? Why? There is a lack of self-esteem. Please understand, I need approval of others. I want people to what? Appreciate me. I want to impress others. Right? It's all because what there is a need for me to be important, which I feel what? I'm not important. Right? So therefore, a lot of this pretense, yes, please.
That would also mean flattery, because I remember Baman once saying that the act to pretend is also an act of flattery, or rather the best form of flattery is to imitate. So sometimes people
Can you
imitate the
explain a
other.
little bit? I don't understand. Can you
Sometimes
elaborate?
people imitate the other
Yeah.
to probably only flatter.
Oh, okay.
It does not lead to any self-importance, no nothing.
Okay.
It is only an act to flatter the person that he's trying to imitate.
Okay, so now why would you want to flatter this person that you're trying to, I mean, why, what is the need to flatter a person?
Many people,
Yes.
for example, if there was a person whose authority ruled, you're trying to get into the books of good books of problem.
Okay, so you're trying to get into the good books of the big boss. So therefore you try to flatter that person. And that is a pretense, because actually you have no value for it. Okay, that's a good point. That's true. You don't really have value for what that person is, but you're trying to imitate, you're flattering the person. There is a certain amount of pretense. Right? Do you agree or not? Okay. So now, why do we need all of this in our society? Why do we need, this whole pretense? We all have to, because we all live in a society. And when we live in a society has created a norm of who is successful. Who is this successful person for you? What is your idea of success? Somebody who drives what? BMW. Or professional success.
I have seen most people define success with the kind of material they would have. So if you can corner a large part of the wealth in your corner, I think that's what people define as success. This is not my definition. That's not my definition.
Okay, so now that means it's all of your certain definitions, what he's saying. Bigger car, mobile, are you carrying an iPhone or not? What designer clothes are you wearing? What are your shoes, right? So that is what? It sounds laughable, but we all do it. He's absolutely right. Right? And actually what is interesting is, who told us that this is a definition of success? Actually, has anybody explicitly told you this? Nobody, think about it. Nobody has explicitly come and told you that a bigger car, a big house, big this, big that is success. But the way everybody else behaves, and we are all very perceptive. We pick up not from what they say, but how they behave. Right? And how they behave is influenced by what? The whole society in the direction and vision, where I can tell you that a lot of these people, who work in advertising companies, they're all geniuses. They're creative directors. They create an image for you of success without explicitly telling you what they work at, what level. Subject. They get into your brain without you knowing that they are getting it. So next time you go and you will have this amazing BMW thing and a beautiful woman or man standing next to it, and there will be just one line. But that one line and the visual will create in you what? A myth of what this is the representation of success. So this is how, somehow, knowingly or unknowingly, we have all bought into what? This image as he was describing. What's your name?
Vegan.
Vegan. Ronald Reagan. Oh, wow. Dr. Okay. Dr. Reagan. Okay, wonderful. President here. So now, it creates a kind of an image in us, and we all buy that picture. Okay? Now, what happens is, when we go to cocktail parties or some social gathering and all, people start asking us questions. So, where do you live? Where are you working? And if you start telling the truth, and if in their image you are what? Less, what will happen? No, 1 second. What will happen if you just telling the truth? Initially, come on, you are telling the truth. I'm at this school and I'm living here in Borivali or I don't know wherever it is. That's why we have names called Upper Jew, right? Because this Jew is a Jew. People who live in Andheri, they don't want to say Andheri. They want to say what? Upper Jew. So that's how.
Upper Jew.
So that's how we start creating very innovative vocabulary to what? Impress others. Now, imagine that you tell the truth and the person thinks that you're a little less important. What will the person do? Excellent. Really, the conversation will end. By the time you are finishing a sentence, the person starts looking at somebody else. Now, who do I connect to? Who is what? At least equal or a little bit more than me. Because everybody is aspiring to be more. Right? So now, imagine how you would feel vivid. You feel not important. Right? Because imagine by the time you told your little real story, people have lost interest in you and the conversation ends. Then, next time, we are all little smart, right? So next time, you go to a cocktail party and somebody starts asking you a question, you say, now this telling the truth doesn't work for me. Then what will you do? You begin to pretend. This is how the whole pretense starts. Don't think that people who are pretending are bad people or they are like some. No, all of us do it because we all receive inputs from others. And there is no human being who is perfect on all counts. So somewhere along the line you feel little less. And nobody wants to feel little less. And then what? As a coping mechanism, we start pretense. Showing what a little God really are. And it starts, I was appalled because it starts at a young age. Recently, one of my friends, she told me that she has a daughter and her daughter's friend had a party, a birthday party at her home. So her daughter was supposed to go and 10 days before the party it got cancelled. So my friend got a little curious, so she called this girl's mother to find out why the party was cancelled. Girl's mother said that my daughter, she goes to her friends' parties and those homes are beautiful, spacious, and got Latency Road and I don't know, Altamont Road and Pelham Road and all. And they have a smaller home in maybe let's say Tardin. And she says, my daughter is so afraid that if her friends come to her home and sees her home, she will lose what? Respect. These are small kids. They are not some adults. At the age of 6 or 7, we start picking these values. This girl was what? So diffident. She forced her mother to what? Cut we don't check this thing, and if we let that child live in the society where there are multiple inputs coming from all directions from a young age, what will happen? Pretense will become a norm. Pretense will become a norm because this is just coping. This is how everybody is. Then no matter how much I give a lecture on, oh, don't be pretentious, be simple, what is it going to do? It is going to have no effect. Because it is what my inbuilt assessment of what is important, what is success, from young age conditioning, which is what multiplied over the period of time. And that is the opinion that almost everybody else subscribes to. And this is exactly what you were saying. It's not what I think, but that's what everybody else thinks. So therefore, that pretends becomes a norm. Now, if we want to, and I think the whole video is going off because there's walking right in front of me. Why don't we take a break? Because it's not good to do many things at the same time. Listen to me when you're listening, drink tea when you're drinking tea. Because everything else, I see all the attention is on wavering. So let's talk, let's drink tea quietly, and then we will start.
Take the other.